Thanks to Scott McFarlane for that report. And right now, a hearing is taking place in Boston over a birthright citizenship lawsuit filed by 18 Democratic-led states. This has to do with President Trump's executive order ending automatic citizenship for babies born on U.S. soil to parents in the country illegally. Now, before the hearing, a few of those attorneys general spoke on why they are suing to stop the president's executive order.
If you're an originalist, if you're a textualist, if you're Justice Gorsuch, are you hearing me, Justice Gorsuch? If you read the language, okay, it could not be more clear. You're born on American soil, you're an American. Why does that matter to so many of us? Why is it so personal? Because if that's not true, I'm not standing here. And that's true for a lot of people in this city, in this state. I bet a few more people in this room. We are not here without the guarantee of the 14th Amendment.
So let's bring in CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez. Welcome in, Camilo. So what can you tell us about today's hearing? What came out of it?
Well, a federal judge in Boston is now weighing whether to issue a third nationwide injunction blocking President Trump's attempt to deny birthright citizenship to the children of parents who are in the country illegally or on temporary visas. And this is, again, one of more than half a dozen lawsuits that states, localities, advocates, and others have been filing across the U.S. challenging the legality of President Trump's action, which would empower the State Department and other agencies to deny birthright citizenship to children born under these circumstances. And of course, they argue that the president simply does not have the authority, Mugu, to essentially reinterpret the longstanding interpretation of the U.S. Constitution, which has long been interpreted to mean that if you are born here physically on U.S. soil, you are an American citizen at birth, irrespective of the immigration status of your parents. And so this will continue to be an intensifying legal battle that will play out in courts across the country. But the Justice Department has already appealed the order in Washington state. And so this case could be decided by appellate courts and ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court, too.
And so, Camilo, in the last few days, federal judges in Seattle and Maryland issued nationwide injunctions in separate cases against President Trump's order. So can you go over those rulings and exactly what happens next here?
Yes, some of these rulings were really scathing in nature, saying that the president is essentially flouting the U.S. Constitution and trampling on the longstanding interpretation of that historical document. And they are siding with the states and advocates who say that denying birthright citizenship to anyone who is born here on American soil is just simply illegal and unconstitutional. And I actually, if I may, want to read you a quote from one of the rulings yesterday in Seattle by a judge appointed by former President Ronald Reagan. And he said that citizenship by birth is an unequivocal constitutional right. It is one of the precious principles that makes the United States the great nation that it is. The president cannot change, limit, or qualify this constitutional right via an executive order. So some pretty scathing and clear language here from the judge in Seattle, again, appointed by a Republican president.
Camilo, let's switch gears here. I want to ask you about immigrant detainees in Guantanamo Bay. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem plans to visit today. So what exactly is she planning to do there?
Well, right now, the Trump administration is in the process of repurposing the Guantanamo Bay Naval Base into a large-scale immigration detention center. The president is saying that this detention facility in Cuba will be used to house the worst of the worst, as he calls them, of people who are in the country illegally. And so far, we have seen 2 military aircraft land at Guantanamo Bay carrying about 24 Venezuelan migrants who U.S. officials say are members of the notorious prison gang Tren de Aragua, which the president has already moved to designate as a foreign terrorist organization. And so they have become really a focal point of his sweeping and dramatic crackdown on illegal immigration. But we are now told that U.S. officials are planning to send daily flights to Guantanamo Bay to send detainees there from across the U.S., from the U.S. mainland. And so this really illustrates, Mugu, how aggressively and quickly the administration is moving to fulfill the president's demand and, again, convert this facility into one of the largest immigration detention centers across the country.
All right. CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez, thank you so much for your time today.